The Economist.
In 1950, the world's population was around 2.5 billion. It more than doubled over the next 50 years. In the mid-80s, the growth rate slowed. By 2050, the world's population is expected to stabilise at around 9 billion. According to the UN's Population Division, between 2010 and 2015, around half of the world's people will live in countries with fertility rates of no more than 2.1, the replacement level of fertility, which causes a country's population growth rate to slow down and eventually to stabilise. As poor countries grow richer, fertility rates decline. In 1950, the average Chinese woman had 6.5 children, and the average income per person in China was $418 a year. The fertility rate declined slowly through the 1950s and 60s, but remained above 5 children per woman into the early 1970s. Then China's government started forcing its citizens to have fewer children, and the rate has fallen sharply. By 1993, it had fallen below replacement level. Since then, the average annual income per person has soared from $1,800 to $5,000 in 2007. Iran's fertility rate in 1950 was just over 7, even higher than China's, though with an average income per person of $3,200, it was also wealthier. The fertility rate remained relatively constant during the 1950s and early 60s. In the mid-60s, the Shah pioneered one of the world's first family planning programs. Birth rates fell and income rose. That policy was abolished by the Islamic revolutionaries who took over the country in 1979. Fertility rates rose above 6 in 1984. By 2006, rates had fallen to 1.9 and to 1.5 in Tehran. In 1976, only 10% of rural women between the ages of 20 and 24 were literate. Today, 91% are. Educated women are more likely to work and demand contraception, and less likely to have large families. South Korea had a fertility rate of 4 and an average annual income per person of just over $1,000 in 1950. Then came a decade of war and stagnation, during which the birth rate shot upward, before falling sharply in the 1960s, as the country grew richer and more industrial. Its fertility rate today is well below replacement level, and its income per person is high even by rich world standards. As fertility rates in the developing world fall, those in much of the rich world, which have long been below replacement level, are starting to rise. In 1950, France's fertility rate was below 3 and its income nearly $6,600 per person. Its fertility rate rose slightly in the 1960s and fell steadily for the rest of the century, dropping below replacement level in 1975. This decade, however, the rate has inched back toward replacement level and in 2007 was at 1.9. Collectively, the world's fertility rate has declined as it's grown richer. During the mid-century baby boom, the West enjoyed its Goldilocks era, when fertility rates and median ages were just right. Now it's the turn of Asia and Latin America.